And welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started, though I do encourage you to continue um, introducing yourselves in the chat box, letting each other know who's here so that maybe you can connect with each other after the fact as well. So welcome to this week's Wednesday webinar. My name is Allison McWilliams. I am so glad that you all have made the choice to join me today to talk about upskilling. So whether you are looking for a new job or just looking to grow in your career, this is work we all can and should be thinking about. And especially in this pandemic moment, this is something I want you all to get super strategic and intentional about. So how do you grow your skills, your knowledge, your abilities to prepare for what comes next so that you're ready when that moment arrives? And so today we're going to be talking about what that looks like in practice. First, just some housekeeping. You all are muted and your videos are turned off. That has been done intentionally. If you have issues or questions as we go, please put those in the chat box, and I've asked my colleague Megan Hoyt to monitor that for us. If we have time, and we should, I will get to questions at the end, but if we run out of time, we are recording this webinar and you will get that recording in a follow-up email along with some bonus resources, and I will definitely answer your questions there. So before we get started, let me introduce our team. You see me on the left there, as well as my colleagues, Lauren and Megan. In our roles, we support students, faculty and staff, and alumni, and lead two offices, the Mentoring Resource Center and the Alumni Personal and Career Development Center here at Wake Forest. You see on the screen there are two websites and all the ways to connect with us, which we hope you will do. One thing I would particularly like to point out is that we have a huge archive of advice pieces and videos, other webinars like this one, online courses you can take, and other tools to help you in this upskilling process. So do take advantage of that as a resource. Okay, let's start by thinking about where we are right now, because there's a lot of change and uncertainty happening in this moment. And even though we're several months into this, there's still a lot of uncertainty. What is this going to look like 6 months from now, a year from now? It's really hard to say. And that level of uncertainty can make it difficult to think about anything, let alone intentional career planning. We are officially in a recession and seeing some of the worst unemployment numbers since the Great Depression. And whether you have been specifically impacted by that or not, we're all being impacted by that in one way or another. And while we know that the first sectors to be hit have been things like retail and travel and hospitality, that certainly doesn't mean that the rest of us are immune. And the so-called white-collar professions are going to be hit next. And we also know, for example, that education is about to take a hit, if not already. Also, the structure and pattern to our lives has been upended, whether you've had to adapt to working from home, learned how to homeschool kids, figured out how to go to work and stay safe. We're all out of our routines, and that has great impacts on the ways in which we show up and do work and live our lives and take care of ourselves. Just think about how the days all blend together and there's no real difference between a Wednesday and a Saturday. I know I keep saying that I need to take a day off from work, but honestly, it's kind of like, what's the point? Am I just going to go hang out in the front of my house instead of the back of my house? You know, I might as well just sit here and do some work. But then, because it's not all bad news, that yes, there is lots of uncertainty, but at the same time, when there's change, there's also a lot of opportunity to be found in the gaps. So what are the needs that are going to emerge from this moment, and who or what are going to fill them? The savvy person is going to look around and identify those things and fill those gaps. And just as an example, look at all of these organizations which came out of the 2008 recession. None of these things existed before that moment. And now it's hard to imagine life without Uber or Instagram, or if you're of a certain age, Venmo. All of these were built because someone saw a need and took action to fill it. So I think it's kind of exciting to imagine what will exist 5 years from now that doesn't in this moment. There was an article that I saw just this morning about this guy who created this online bookstore platform for independent booksellers. And he actually created it before the pandemic to try to compete with Amazon. And not a lot of booksellers kind of bought into it and thought that, that it was going to be successful. But he had projected that within 2 years that he would be able to make through this platform $30 million. And then the pandemic hit, and all of these bookstores jumped on board, and they've already blown past $40 million for this year. So that's just kind of an example of sort of taking advantage of the moment. Now, that doesn't mean that we all have to go create a tech startup. Sometimes the opportunity lies in figuring out how to meet the needs of your current reality. So there was a great article in yesterday's New York Times about how fitness trainers are having to adapt to this moment. And the piece tells the story through several different trainers and what they have experienced during COVID. And what I particularly love about the piece is that after their worlds fell apart and all of their clients canceled and it seemed like they were out of business, not only did they each pivot and figure out how to continue to serve their current clients' needs online, they've actually found ways to grow their businesses and build a whole new customer base in ways that they wouldn't have been able to do before. And that, to me, is the very definition of meeting the moment and adapting, which is a mindset that I'd love for each of you to think about as well. So at the end of the article, there is this question: can I find an opportunity within all of this chaos? And then they provide these 4 key takeaways, which I think are applicable to all of us. So number 1, practice environmental scanning. Look around your workplace, look around your life, figure out what the trends are that you're seeing, and take a moment to assess your needs. Identify the new normal. This is about taking stock of the current reality, not putting your head in the sand and waiting for this moment to blow over. Go mobile. So for you, this means, how do you need to adapt to this new normal? What is it going to require in terms of tools and in terms of skills? And then communicate. So whether it's with clients, colleagues, your family, a moment of crisis always demands more intentional communication. Now, if you are a new grad or find yourself newly unemployed, this may not be the moment to think about upskilling. In this moment, I want you to find work as soon as possible and do what you need to do to make that happen. The unemployment numbers are grim, but that doesn't mean that no one is hiring. But it may mean taking a change in industry or role or a position at a lower salary or even a different title. It's not ideal, but these aren't ideal times. This isn't the moment to think about what will give you meaning and purpose. This is the moment to find a job, to pay your bills, and to keep tangible work experience on your resume. And while you're looking, it's a good idea to seek out volunteer opportunities, again, to keep some tangible experience on your resume. And then finally, this may be a great time to think about grad school if you've ever considered that. A lot of schools are still taking applicants, are waiving some application requirements, and even throwing some money at potential students. So I say look into that if it interests you. But if you have the space, and if perhaps before this pandemic hit, you were looking at a job change, let me encourage you instead to use this moment to upskill. So what do we mean by that? Traditionally, upskilling has been an organizational process focused on continual learning, cross-training, and development of employees for the organization. So this comes out of HR departments, out of training and development, to focus on building organizational bench strength. But even before this moment, a shift was happening away from the organization to the individual, as organizations no longer have the resources or the bandwidth or honestly the need to do this work anymore. It's a seller's market, and now even more so. And the smart employee is going to do this work for him or herself. So now I want you to do this for you, to think about how you are doing the work of continual learning, seeking out cross-training, and taking ownership for your growth and your career path. It's always worth remembering, no one is ever going to care about your career as much as you are. Now, if you attended our Wednesday webinar last week on making a career pivot with our friend and colleague and Wake Forest alum, Kristen Winklebeck, this slide should look familiar to you because I stole it from her. And if you weren't able to attend, the recording of that webinar and all the other ones live on our website, so you can go back and rewatch it there. But this is just a great and simple plan that she provided and which we're going to build on here. And we're really going to focus in on those first 3 squares: developing skills, building your network, and gaining experience, and doing all of that work strategically and intentionally. And it starts with taking stock, which is all about identifying what you know and what you can control. One of the things I say a lot is that you have to deal with the reality that you know. We spend an awful lot of time trying to anticipate and plan for the what ifs. What if I get that job? What if I have to move across the country? What if a global pandemic shuts down the world and everything I know changes? Now, look, I love a plan and I love goal setting, but you can't anticipate everything that is to come. And any good plan or goal is based on a solid assessment of current state. So first, what do you know? What do you know about your role and your industry? Are they stable? Have they already changed in some way? Can you anticipate some future changes in the next 6 months or a year? Just as an example, I work in education, and we're pretty stable at the moment, but we've had to pivot to online learning and engagement rapidly, and that's not going away anytime soon. Our budgets have been massively cut and will continue to be. And if we don't have students on campuses in the fall, a lot of things are going to change for a lot of people. It would be foolish for me not to recognize that as part of my planning process. Also, what do you know about your life? Is this the time to plan an expensive vacation or home renovation project? Or is this the time to maybe make some small cuts to put away more money into savings? So the first step is to take stock of what you know. So remember that New York Times piece. This is the environmental scanning part, both on your work and on your life. What are the trends that you're seeing in your work and your life, and what is your current reality? Second is to recognize and adapt to this new normal. There are a lot of people wondering right now when we're going to get back to normal. They're asking, when will we get back to our pre-COVID lives? And let me just tell you, we're not. In no way will we ever return to pre-COVID life. For one thing, we just can't unless you're a time traveler of some sort. But also, there are many things about our lives that have been forever changed. Our concepts of stability and security have forever been changed. The ways that we will travel and engage with one another have changed and will continue to do so. So again, this isn't the moment to put your head in the sand and to wait for this to blow over. The people who will succeed in this moment are the ones who are able to cultivate adaptability and flexibility and exhibit an openness to change. Even before this pandemic, that is one of the most important skills that employers were looking for. Now, even more so, this is a primary skill set that you need to cultivate for yourself. And as part of that, identify the things that are within your control and put your focus there. You can't control whether or not your industry falls apart, but you can control how you prepare for that and how you react to it. And then lastly, it's time to assess your gaps. So whether you're looking for a new job or not, once you've taken stock of what you know and identified your new normal, this is the moment to take a hard, objective look at your resume, at your LinkedIn profile, and identify the places that you need to develop so that when an opportunity presents itself, you've already done the work to make yourself a prepared, experienced, skilled candidate. Now, one practice that I always recommend is to constantly be looking at job descriptions. I do this every week, and I'm not looking for a new job, but it gives me insight into my industry and what people are looking for. It gives me information about opportunities that I might find interesting. And it helps me to identify my gaps. It's a great, easy, free practice. And if you can't figure out your gaps, just ask someone. Find a job description that you find interesting and give it and your resume to someone that you trust and ask them to give you feedback on what you're missing. No matter how you do it, before you can do the work of filling your gaps, you have to know what they are. All right, so let's talk about filling those gaps. For the rest of our time, we're going to look at 3 specific areas to do this work. First, how to intentionally seek out strategic experiences that will add to your skill set and knowledge. Second, how to learn strategically in ways that provide value. And third, how to strategically build your network. Now, what's the through line here? Set goals, set goals, set goals. This is a strategic process, not random experience gathering or learning for learning's sake. And don't get me wrong, I think there's great value in both of those processes. That's just not what we're talking about here. So one of the best ways to fill those gaps and to build your skills is to seek out strategic experiences. And ideally, you do this work within your current role and within your organization. And as a manager, what I'm going to tell you is the best way to ask for this opportunity is to connect that ask to your goals. You need to make the case for the stretch that you want to make and why you are well suited to make it. So the types of things you should be thinking about here are things like project management, committee or team leadership, design work, assessment and evaluation, cross-training in other functional areas, and so on. The specifics are going to depend on your role, your industry and organization. For you, it might look like gaining experience with budgets or data or growing your presentation skills. In other words, these aren't soft experiences, but opportunities to add hard skills and growth assignments to your resume. It's also worth noting that just because you ask for something doesn't mean that you're going to get it for a variety of reasons. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't make the ask and look for the opportunity. However, if you can't find the opportunity within your current work environment, seek out roles outside of it through volunteer or service organizations or professional associations. And these are great places to develop skills in volunteer recruitment and management, project management, financial planning and budgeting, conference planning and event management, training and development, and so on. All of these would be great additions to your resume, and these organizations are always looking for help. But again, it's not just I paid my dues and I'm a member of organization X. You can put membership on your resume, but it doesn't do anything to add to your skills and experiences. You have to actually sign up for and do the work. And then you always want to be able to tell a good story. And a good story looks like this was the need, this was the action that I took to meet that need, and this was the impact of that action. If you can't do that, it's not a good story. And I can tell you the #1 recruiter question post-COVID is going to be, what did you do with this time? So you need to be able to answer that question with a good strategic story. But the good news is you don't have to wait for someone to ask you that question to go ahead and create and take action on your plan. So the next opportunity to think about is how to build your skill sets and knowledge base through strategic learning. And here I want you to think about need to have, not nice to have. So again, go back to your gaps and your goals and think about things you can put on a resume. It's great that you watch a TED Talk every day and subscribe to 14 different podcasts. I love that you're a learner, but you're not going to put those things on a resume. So where do you do this work? These are just a few places I would recommend, and certainly you can and should seek out others. Do your homework and identify the places and the resources that meet your needs. Also, these aren't free resources, it should be noted, but personally, I believe you should look at this like an investment in your future. And if you're strategic about it, that's always a good investment. So to start, think about your university or other schools. Wake Forest offers quite a few certificate courses through our office, through our lifelong learning office, through the Charlotte Center. And if you went to another university, it probably does as well. More and more institutions of higher education are getting into the lifelong learning space outside of traditional degree programs. And these programs are open to anyone who's willing to pay the registration fee. I did a quick search of our Charlotte Center certificate programs just this morning, and right now they're offering certificate programs in project management, in nonprofit essentials, in strategy, in design thinking, and a couple of others. So there's some good stuff in there. General Assembly is an organization out of California that offers a ton of one-off programs and certificates, a lot of it in the design and user experience space, but also in marketing and business and other areas. Right now, they're doing a series of free Fridays that are worth checking out. And they also offer some really good career development and job searching tools that are worth checking out. Coursera, edX, and Udemy, you've probably heard of. These are online platforms with thousands of courses. Coursera and edX in particular feature courses from various higher education institutions. Now, here again, you want to be thoughtful, right? So while a class in medieval literature is fabulous, you need to think about what connects with your gaps and your goals and how you should be spending your time. LinkedIn Learning is another place for skill-based learning for a fee. If you have premium LinkedIn access, you should have access to this. It's a great space for tactical topics like Excel training or effective presentations. And there are literally thousands of courses on there. Professional trade associations are great places to get certifications that are looked for in different fields. So, for example, if you're looking to pivot to human resources roles, I would look at SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and at their certifications, or you might look into a coaching certification. Again, this is where looking at job descriptions is really helpful. What are they looking for in potential candidates, and do you have what those things are? Don't discount your local technical schools, which are a great source of courses and certifications, often at lower cost. And you may find that your next step requires an actual full-on graduate degree. And as I mentioned earlier, this could be a great time to look into that as an option, either full or part-time. And then lastly, if you are looking to build that side project, this is a great time to think about what you need for that. Things like web design or content management or building a social platform and things like that. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, these are great skills that you can put on a resume. Things like learning how to design a website or social media management are great things you can put on a resume. If I have one piece of advice around this learning topic, it is to be strategic and thoughtful. You don't have unlimited time or resources. So what is going to be the best investment for you to get where you want to go? And again, you want to be able to tell a good story. So listing 15 LinkedIn learning classes is not a good story. Demonstrating how you have put that knowledge to use and made an impact with what you learned is a much better story to tell. The third piece is all about network building. You never want to do the work of building your network when you need a job. You want to have already done that work because network building is relationship building. If you come to me and ask me for help and we already have an established relationship, I am much more likely to say yes than to someone who's making a cold call with their hand out. So this starts with asking, where do you want to be and what do you still need to learn? Then I would recommend a simple network mapping exercise to identify the strengths and gap areas of your network. We have a great process for this, which Megan designed on our website and which I would recommend to you. But in very simple terms, this is creating a visual map of all the places you show up in your life and all the people with whom you are connected in those places, and then seeing where you need to fill some gaps. And then I recommend that you embark on a process of having intentional curiosity conversations. So what are curiosity conversations? Basically, these are grown-up informational interviews. We stole this phrase from Brian Grazer, who is the producing partner of Ron Howard. Ron Howard, as you may know, was a child actor. He was Opie, and then he was on Happy Days, and then he pivoted into directing and producing. But he had all of that capital that he had built up as an actor to make that pivot. Brian Grazer is a businessman, and he realized that he needed to figure out what his competitive advantage was in order to be successful in the film industry. And what he realized is that his advantage is that he just stays naturally curious about other people. And so for 30 years or so, once or twice a month, he reaches out to people who are outside of film and TV to have these curiosity conversations. He never has a goal other than to learn about these people, but there's no angle to it. But out of these conversations, he's gotten film ideas and it's benefited him tremendously. And so much so that he wrote a book on the topic a couple years ago called A Curious Mind. I love this practice for the simplicity of it. This is something we all can do and we all should be doing. So look around and start reaching out to people and ask to have conversations with them about their lives, about their careers, about what they've learned, and see where it takes you. You're going to find that people rather like being asked to talk about themselves. And the learning that you gain into other industries and roles and possible lives for yourself can't be overstated. The other great part of this is it doesn't require in-person interaction. You can actually start doing this today. So Kristen and I were discussing this phrase last week, which I love, don't waste the wait. At some point, someone is going to ask you what you did with this time. And what do you want your answer to that question to be? Start there and plan backward. Don't wait for someone else to own your path for you. Create your plan, upgrade your marketing docs, do your homework, and do the work, and it will pay off. So as always, we wrap asking you to connect with us in all of the ways that we have available. Also, if you're interested in continuing to do this work, let me just take a moment to tell you about our Jumpstart Job Search Strategy Bootcamp, which is kicking off July 1 and is open for registration now. And it's a deep dive into many of the things that we've talked about here. It's only for Wake Forest alumni, unfortunately, but like I said, for the rest of you, there are tons of tools and resources for you on our website. And next week, I am so excited that our friend and Wake Forest alum, Ryan Riccardello, will be with us to talk about why this quarantine isn't a competition. So we hope to see you all there. And before I wrap us up completely, let me just check and see if we have any questions. Great. Okay, so we will be sending out the recording of this webinar to everyone. Like I said, it's going to come with some additional resources, and obviously, if you have additional questions beyond that or things you want to discuss, reach out to us and let's talk about it. And meanwhile, thank you all so much for spending this time with us, and I hope you have a great day.